Hello everybody, Shinjo here, and welcome back to my top 10 anime of 2023. So, out front, I already know that this isn't going to be out at the end of 2023 because I'm recording this at the end of 2023, but also I kind of already recorded this video before, but the placements were a lot different and I reworked the list since then. I can't really discuss what I changed about it at the moment, but you'll soon see as the list goes forward. But initially my plan was to post the top 10 in January and then a follow-up in April because shows like Frieren, Shangri-La Frontier, and Undead Unluck are carrying on into 2024, but realistically nobody is going to watch a top 10 anime of 2023 halfway through 2024. So this is going to be the sole video discussing my top 10 anime of the 2023 year, and that's it. The major problem that I can see with people discussing this list is Frieren is not going to be on here, mainly because I only watched about a handful of episodes. I think I'm 4 or 5 episodes in, and I don't feel it's fair to rank that amongst everything else that I either have finished or close to finished. But keep in mind that all of this is my opinion, and there were a lot of shows that I had to cut out that I genuinely enjoyed. So, regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. Beginning this countdown at number 10 is Mashle. Mashle is certainly an interesting show. It was one that I didn't really have on my radar when it first came out, but the benefit of it coming out so early into 2023 is that I was able to binge through all of the episodes after everything was already completed. And it's honestly a funny show. There are very few shows now that I can say genuinely make me laugh, and this is certainly one of them. It certainly has a brand of humor that's turn your mind off and not think about it that much, but the world is interesting. Initially I called it a ripoff of Black Clover, but it really isn't like that because the character dynamics are much different than in Black Clover. Plus, Mashle relies so much more on comedy than Black Clover does. So, I think that this show deserves its props for being a good show. I'm already expecting to get some heat from not putting Frieren on the list, so let's continue that trend with number 9, which is Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. This is one that came out early in the year that I didn't expect that I would like, and I even decided to not watch after watching very little of the first episode. But to be real, it isn't terrible. It certainly has some topics that are a bit uncomfortable to watch or even discuss, but it is a genuinely funny show, kind of like Mashle. The characters are certainly a bit more wacky, but overall I believe it deserves props for not only having a show like this where the topic of concern with the show is done with a little bit of grace and maturity, and also it's a show that I kind of dreaded putting on here, but I think it deserves at least some praise for that. The only thing I will say is the second half of the show, when the school comes into play, I didn't really like that because the secondary characters there I didn't really like, but overall, the first half of the show is genuinely good, and just like Mashle, a turn your mind off sort of show. At number 8, we have Shangri-La Frontier. So, I tried to explain this the last time that I recorded this top 10, and I still don't know if I can fully explain it, but Shangri-La Frontier started off really good for my opinion. Banger opening, pretty good ending as well. Neat premise, neat setting and everything, but it's not a show that I find myself drawn to go back to. Like, I watch a couple of episodes, I think that's pretty good, but it's not something that I feel like I have to see the next episode right away. It's a bit of a weird feeling, but then when I go back to watch a new episode, I do genuinely enjoy it. It's just a show that, in my opinion, I don't feel compelled to watch new episodes when they come out. I don't know exactly how that makes sense, but still, it's a decent show, Obviously, I'm only halfway through the show, so I don't know how the second half of the show is going to be, but I'm hoping that it's going to be as enjoyable as the first half is. Number 7 is a show much like Onimai that I didn't think that I would enjoy, and that is Buddy Daddies. So, like Mashle vs. Black Clover, I saw this and I immediately thought that it was a ripoff of Spy Family. And while those comparisons could definitely be made, in my opinion, I like Miri more of a character than Anya, although it is a little bit of a toss-up. It's a little bit hard to compare because we see Miri's life up until she gets a little bit more grown up, where Anya, we just see her day-to-day life. And I can save this topic for a later video if I decide to compare Buddy Daddies to Spy Family. But even though I love Anya and love Miri at the same time, I do feel like Anya was more tailor-made to be part of the meme community, where Miri is just fun to watch. But more on the show, it is genuinely a good show, and all the main leads, even some of the secondary characters, are really fun to watch. When I watched this, I did watch the dub, and I really enjoy all of the performances. I especially love Emmy Lowe performing as Miri, because Emmy Lowe is doing a really good job as Tsugumi in Orient that I started watching recently. I'm not going to say that the dialogue from the dub is what saves this show, but it certainly doesn't hurt. The only problem that I can say is that since the show shows Miri as a teenager, I'm not sure what they would do with a later series if they decide to do something like that. If they decide to wrap it up like this, I will be a little bit disappointed, but it'll be a nice compact show that you can watch and feel satisfied at the end. Number 6 is Pokemon Horizons. This is a little bit of a tough one because Go Rush is airing, so I'm not going to be putting Go Rush on this list since it's not officially new from this year. But considering that Horizons is the first Pokemon series that doesn't include Ash, it was a little bit hard to decide where to place it. But like Shangri-La Frontier, I enjoy the episodes when I watch them, but I don't really feel compelled to go back and watch them again. Even with the new season, even though I love the OP and a lot of stuff about it, it feels like they're kind of blitzing through the Terrapago storyline as quickly as they possibly can. I don't know how that's going to work out in the end, but that on top of a lot of filler is what makes it only stay at 6th place. Number 5, we have our only tie for this list, and that is Horimiya Peace and Osama Ranking Treasure Chest of Courage. So these two I was asking about on the community tab earlier in 2023 because both of them aren't necessarily sequels, but they're not necessarily original shows, because Horimiya Peace and Osama Ranking both take place in the middle of their respective stories. Back then, my initial plan was to do a top 10 of original shows and top 10 of sequels, so I wasn't sure where to put these two. But honestly, even though these shows are solid in their own right, it does just feel like a bit of filler. There's enjoyable filler at the same time, but not really much drastic in the plot moves forward, because we already know what happens at the end of Horimiya and Osama Ranking. So it's hard to entirely get engrossed in it without taking into consideration the characters and the dynamics of the show. But regardless, they're really solid shows and definitely deserving to be here. Number 4 is another show carrying over into the next year, Undead Unluck. This is one that I watched immediately when it came out because it seemed interesting to me, and fortunately for me, it wasn't a show that I was disappointed in. I really like the world. I really like a lot of the characters. I don't know how they're going to work things since Andy and Fuko are now in that sort of group. I don't know if it's just going to be day by day things there, or if something big is actually going to happen by the end of the season. But regardless, still really solid, really good action, really good chemistry between the characters, a lot of good VA performances as well in my opinion. It's just a lot of good that I can say about the show. And it's honestly hard for me to put it back as far as it is. Number 3 is a show that I'm a little bit surprised is this far back. Oshi no Ko. So, full transparency, when I recorded the other top 10 that's not going to be posted, this was my number 1. But the more I thought about it, it's similar to Onimai, not in concept, but more in execution. I really like the first episode. It's a really powerful first episode, but in my opinion, once the school setting comes into play, and it seems to be long drawn out arcs, it does kind of lose a bit of that steam, but that may be just because that first episode was so powerful. It's still really enjoyable, but I really don't feel like much headway became with the plot, especially with Aqua. But their discussions on social media and everything becoming an idol and everything around that is still really good and definitely deserves to be a top 5 of the year. The runner-up spot, and I don't know if this will be controversial, at this point I'm accepting that my whole list is controversial, but that spot belongs to Demon Slayer Season 3. Although if you really wanted to, you can encapsulate every single sequel that aired in 2023 here. Jujutsu Kaisen, Bofuri Season 2, Iruma, all of these sequels. But in my opinion, I knew I had to pick one, and Demon Slayers had to be it. It may be a bit normie, but I did still enjoy it. A lot of good action. To Hashira, I wouldn't say carry the story, but definitely help with the story. The payoff at the end of the show is really good as well. Honestly, besides the fact that it is a little bit of an obvious pick, I can't really see any reason to not like it. Plus, to throw a little bit of shade, at least Ufotable isn't having production issues with their staff behind closed doors. Which I didn't even think about is a brilliant segue into the number 1 spot, and that is Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. This show is the only reason that I had to rework this list. That and the fact that I switched Demon Slayer and Oshi no Ko's placements. But initially, this was an honorable mention, because when I recorded the other video, I didn't watch the last 3 episodes. Obviously, where it left off was right in the middle of a big arc with Tendo's home village and everything. But after I watched those 3 episodes, I can say the wait was definitely worth it. Number of issues are going on behind their studio. I really hope that they can get it together. But overall, the wait of 3 episodes just for a payoff like that was really worth it in my opinion. I just love all the characters. Akira, Shizuku, Bee, and even Kensho. They're all really fun characters, and the chemistry they work off of each other with is just amazing. The whole lesson moral of the show is really good as well. Although I'm realizing now that this might be a similar situation to shows like before with Laid Back Camp, where it's not a great show by any means, but it's my personal favorite. A lot of people might like Zom 100, but might not feel it deserves to be at number 1, especially with the heavy hitters of JJK and even Attack on Titan this year. But this has to be my favorite from the year. It was just a really fun show, a great start, a little bit of a rocky middle, but a great conclusion overall. But that is my top 10 anime of 2023. I hope that it isn't too controversial, but I can guarantee that it is regardless. But if you enjoy, hit that like button down below. Let me know your favorite anime from this year, or 2023, down below. And if you enjoy, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other videos like this. I'll see you next time. Momentai.